With both John Romero and Hugo Martin here at Gamereactor 2016 talking about Doom and Quake. Of course, FPSs are a big talking point this year. And we're lucky to have here Minh, co-creator of CounterStrike. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure being back. I think I saw you 3 years ago, so it's nice to see you again. Yeah.
You've been talking about the genre in general during your speech, and what do you think about the status of the genre right now?
I think the FPS genre is actually quite healthy right now. I think there was a bit of a lull 5 years ago when MOBAs were very popular, and people weren't playing as many FPS games. I think 6-7 years ago, but now with CS:GO becoming very popular in the eSports scene, I think FPSs are really taking a resurgence in popularity, and like you're seeing games like Overwatch, and Battlefield is always popular. So yeah, I think FPS genre has never really died out, but it's still always going to remain a popular genre for the years to come. So yeah, it's always been healthy. Yeah.
When you were creating CounterStrike originally, did you ever dream of the game becoming such a phenomenon and this eSports aspect to it?
No, I never at all. I mean, it's always just when you create a game, you can never envision how long it's gonna last. I mean, I think I was just happy that the game would make me money just to survive for a few years. So to see it last over the period of 20 years, it's really amazing, and I think it kind of it's indicative of how I guess simple that the game design has lasted this long. That I think people just appreciate the simplicity of the Counter-Strike game mechanics and how simple it is and how easy it is for new players to learn it. And so I think it's stood the test of time because of that, of its simplicity. Yeah.
What's your personal opinion on Counter-Strike Global Offensive?
I think it's really, really well polished, and I think it's just really accessible for new players to just come in there and to be able to just enjoy the game. Because back then, 20 years ago when I first created the game, it was very difficult for new players because sometimes they would be matched against like people of different skill levels. So it was very frustrating for a new player to really enjoy the game experience. So now with things like matchmaking and just the ease for players to be properly matched, I think it's much better for new players, and in turn that allows the game, the player base to grow much more quickly because of that accessibility. Yeah.
What do you think is the next step for the genre? What would you like to be implemented or?
It's I mean, I think as a game designer, you always want to do some very imaginative, creative features, but I think the player base appreciates the simplicity of Counter-Strike. That I can't imagine there being anything that hasn't already been tried before. I think at one point they tried to add shields or something like that, but I think people just they didn't feel like this was necessary, and they wanted to go back to the original game mechanics of Counter-Strike. So I think there's not much more that I can envision to change the Counter-Strike, because right now it has so much polish. It has like the matchmaking system. It has the spectating mode. It's so esports friendly. I can't imagine that there be needing any more changes to it that people would want from it. I think Counter-Strike has reached kind of a point where it's really quite perfect, Yeah.
3 years ago when we met, you were about to launch Tactical Intervention. How has been the feedback so far?
Well, that game was a big failure because I think we went into that game with I think we bit off more than we can chew, really, because we had a really small team. And also another big problem with that game is we didn't properly test it, openly test it with a lot of players. It was only tested for a very short period of time, and this didn't allow us to polish the game and to change the gameplay mechanics. And a lot of people felt that the game was unpolished and it was unbalanced, and that was and a lot of it was valid criticism because we just didn't have the opportunity or the environment for us to test the game in an open environment. It was developed in a very closed environment, and I regret working in such an environment. So. That I think that was one of the big factors in why it failed. Another reason why we failed, I believe, was because we didn't properly monetize the game. It was a free-to-play game, and we were selling things that a lot of players felt was making the game unbalanced, and they felt that it was too pay to win. So I don't think this is a very good. I don't think that was a very good decision, because it was very difficult for us to grow the player base when a lot of players were scared to even try the game because they felt it was play to win. So I think that those were the two biggest factors in the failure of TI. It was not developed in an open environment. We didn't properly test it with a lot of players, and the monetization was poorly implemented. Yeah.
And then with these two lessons learned already, would you like to get back to the genre and to create a new FPS from the ground?
I think I would want to avoid FPSs for now, because I think FPSs have reached kind of like a zenith, kind of like, I think they've reached a point where I don't see there's much more innovation to bring to FPSs that haven't already been done. I mean, you look at games like Battlefield and Call of Duty and CounterStrike, they've really each of the games focus on their own kind of game design systems. Like Battlefield is an open world game where you have vehicles and that kind of thing. And I think there's not much more that as a game designer, there's not much more that I can explore really that either hasn't been done. So I think I would probably consider making another game outside of FPS games. Yeah.
Now you're working on Rust. What can you tell us about the project?
So my role on Rust is much less prominent than when I was in Counter-Strike. In fact, I don't really do a lot of game design on Rust. I'm more of just an artist. I help out with the animations for the characters and the weapons on Rust. So a lot of the Rust design is done by other people aside from myself. So I actually prefer to do this because I think after working on Counter-Strike and working on TI, I felt very burnt out. As a game developer, when you work on something for so long, when you work on the same type of game for like more than 10 or 20 years, you get really burnt out, and I think that's kind of what happened to me after TI. I just felt like there's nothing more that I can really bring to the table that was fresh and innovative. So I just wanted to take a break, and I wanted to just work on a project that was a bit easier, a bit less stress for me. So I think Rust was perfect opportunity for me to be a part of a game, and a game that's really popular, and just I think that's I'm really fortunate to be involved with the Rust project.
But Rust is, as you said, is actually a success story already, with more than 3 million gamers enjoying the game. What can we expect next from Rust? What is the status of the game right now?
Well, I think right now the guys I work with, they're working on a system, an experience point system, because I think currently in Rust, when you join a server and you create your character, there's no longevity. There's no like persistence to your growth, your character growth. You kind of like you grow the character and then you die, and then the server restarts, and like you do the same thing over the next time. So there's no persistence of character growth. So my coworkers, they want to introduce an experience system where your character is gaining experience, and as he gains experience, he's able to do more things further down the road, and he's able to unlock different abilities and traits. So I think this will give the game more longevity for players, and just more incentive to come back and improve their character.
Anything else you would like to be added to Rust as it is right now?
I think there's been talks about adding vehicles, and I'm personally excited about this because I think adding kind of vehicles, and it will allow players to kind of interact with other players in a different like opportunities for different combat and stuff like that. So I've always felt like vehicles added a good sense of like when I play Battlefield, like the vehicles always add an element of unpredictability to the combat. So I think it would really help the Rust gameplay when we if we were to add vehicles, and I think that's something definitely that we're looking into down the line though.
Now that you've worked in first-person experiences mainly, both shooters and other type of experiences, what do you think about VR, and is something you would like to experiment with?
I think at the moment VR, for me, it has limitations that don't really make it like I don't really see any motivation for me to make a game in VR because of the limitations that it has. And the biggest one that it has is just the way the movement right now, because right now there's no solution for us to do proper movement in VR. Like all of the VR games that we've seen are really limited in scope in that they all take place in a very small room, and the player is not really allowed to move that much. And for me, that's one of the biggest part about making games is the like one of the key points of making a good gameplay experience is player movement, and that allows players to interact with other players in exciting ways. Is how does the player move about in the world? So until the VR can solve this aspect, I think we're just going to be. I mean, as a game developer, I don't really see any exciting possibilities to develop a game that where you're restricted in your movement. So I don't think I would consider making a VR game until they solve this issue. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, Min.
Okay, you're welcome. Pleasure.